Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's coloring will be in the book by Dennis Klett, Fairies in Dreamland. And if you own this book, probably you know that it has quite big empty areas of the background, so we need to decide how to cover them. And again, if you own this book, probably you may notice that paper is a little bit tricky when you want to use water-based mediums. At least from my experience, I wasn't particularly happy how this paper behaved with a regular or watercolor, even if paper is relatively thick, so you suppose that it can behave nicely with watercolors. Sometimes from several paints I got not very attractive dots on the paper after my watercolors dried. Then I tried different type of watercolors, those semi-opaque which have a white pigment in them. I have in my channel video where I used um, pastel green color, it's like pistachio green, and it's semi-opaque. They behaved better, at least they didn't create ugly stains on the background. And that's where I got the idea that opaque paints like gouache could be perfect choice to do background here. So when I felt that I really wanted to play with my set of Arteza gouache, I decided that it's perfect chance to color something in this book. Honestly, in this book we have a lot of similar pictures, so when I experiment with gouache, I am not afraid to ruin something unique and precious. I selected this page, it's quite sweet, but we have a lot of similar pictures in this book. I decided to do color gradients, starting from more lilac or violet colors in the lower part where we have flowers, and going to more peach pink color in the upper part around the fairy. But to make transition from lilac to pink peach color, I needed something intermediary. That's why I also will be using almost natural color called taupe. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I listed all the gouache names in the beginning of the video. Near the bottom part of the page I put the most intense and darkest color, and then gradually going to the uh, middle part of the page where we have a lot of flowers, I make transition to the lighter color to lilac and mauve. Then through this natural taupe I moved to the upper part where I put pink. I switched between two sizes of brushes. With the smaller round one, which I got from Jackson's Art, I colored lower part where we have small spaces between all the leaves, stems and flowers, and when I had to color huge empty area on the top part, I switched to flat bigger brush, and it helped me to create more or less uh, plain cover. Of course it wasn't perfect. I tried to blend paints on the paper as much as possible and to create smooth color gradient from darker to lighter shades, but of course in couple of areas there were still some stains and color gradient wasn't completely smooth, but I decided that later I will return to this area. I can add some white dots around fairy or circles, or I can add additional color accents on top of gouache using regular pencils. I think that it's my third or fourth attempt to use Arteza gouache, and I'm pretty happy with this medium. I already own several gouache paints from other manufacturers, from Russian brand White Nights, the same which produce watercolors, and I also own several Ukrainian paints. They are good, they have nice colors, they have thick creamy texture they create nice matte surface, but still I love Arteza a little bit more, mostly because of the more delicate texture. Arteza gouache is less thick, probably gouache by White Knights. It was made for painting on the for real painters and for using painting knife to create texture, but for coloring books it created quite a rough texture, and to work on top of it with pencils it created very grainy effect which I didn't like. But this one it's closer to the delicate watercolors. It behaves like watercolors. It's simply not transparent but opaque, which is very helpful for the backgrounds. I didn't use almost didn't use water. I took paint directly from the tube, and if I wanted to mix them, I did it with the paint directly on the paper. But diluted with small amount of water, this gouache looked even closer to watercolors. So maybe one day I will try to use it with bigger amount of water. But for today's idea, I wanted more uh, opaque background, so I used very limited amount of water just to rinse my brush slightly when I changed colors. To color flowers, I decided to use Color pencils. I love how they behave on this paper, and I also love their variety of purple, uh, dark red, lavender, violet colors. I imagined that flowers which we have here, we have two types of them. They will pop up on the background, they will have contrast colors, probably something light to be nicely visible against the dark background. But for the leaves and stems, I wanted to use colors which will be quite close to background color, almost mixed with it. So I selected a pair of grayish pink and burnt bridge red for the stems, and purple and light purple for the leaves. Of course, later I plan to mask black lines using Posca or maybe using white paint, but for now I decided to color them with these pairs of colors, and I also added coral for additional color accents. I hope that you will join me in the second part where I will be coloring flowers and of course fairy. And then I will try to mask all those areas on the top part of the background where I wasn't particularly happy how my paints mix it together and where I wanted to mask a couple of not very attractive stains.